Manchester City is being watched by all of England. It seems the Blues can't perform unless they play fair without 150 financial fair play violations. Rumors of Josep Guardiola's dismissal have surfaced in the English media. Arsenal is showing convincing play, and Jesus has already scored 5 goals this week. Liverpool should be feared. Safonov's wife has completely lost her mind, and Kylian Mbappe might leave the passenger without the Champions League. We're discussing this and more today. Friends, this is Dose of Football on the top 10 most interesting news up to this hour. There are, by the way, a lot of news, so we divided them into 2 issues. The first one you will find on the pre-dose of football. The link is in the pinned comment and in the description. Well, the rest you will see right here, right now. Therefore, be sure to support the video with a like. We tried very hard. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. During Anthony's career at Manchester United, who only laughed at the Brazilian? Above all, it undoubtedly came from the fans. I'll say for myself that his turns on the spot will always remain in my heart. No one will ever be able to repeat such a complex and effective feint. And even though the legend hardly gets any playing time this season, the jokes continue. Former Watford striker Troy Deeney has joined the general trend, who, apparently, is a United fan. As soon as MU substituted Anthony in the match against Tottenham, everyone else ran off. You have to deal with him. I don't want to make him a scapegoat, but his game is disappointing. It's his star hour, but he doesn't run or make breakthroughs. Just get rid of him. If you're taking out Marcus Rashford, send Anthony with him. Whoever takes Rashford, pay for them to take Anthony too. Just get him out of the club, Deeney said, and was absolutely right. A passenger appears to be actively interested in Rashford. And MU's management should ask if Parisians want a pleasant bonus in the face of Anthony. But if the Sheikhs refuse, then the Brazilian can be sneaked to their neighbors from the south of France. In the Marseille squad, there's already one former Monaco player, and he is doing quite successfully. Who would have thought that after the scandal with the beating of a girl, Greenwood would become the main player of Marseille and score 10 goals in 15 matches? Probably those who followed Mason's career in Getafe. But let's skip these details. Anthony can also get a second chance in League One. As I see it, Marseille won't refuse a free player, whom the Devils previously bought for almost 100 million euros. Marseille needs a squad to compete with Paris Saint-Germain for the first place, or at least secure their participation in the Champions League by the end of the season. They would happily welcome Anthony and his tricks into their squad. In the context of this news, it's worth noting again the failed transfers of Manchester United in recent years. There's a feeling that the more the Devils pay for players, the worse they perform. Just look at the examples of the same Anthony, Mount, or Casemiro. They gave more than £20 million for the 3 of them, and there's no output whatsoever. Only joy for fans from the fact that they can continue to make memes about another brilliant spin of the Brazilian genius. Donnarumma is not taking out competition with Matvei Safonov and begins to slowly withdraw from the Paris project. The Italian was unequivocally number 1 from the moment he moved to Parc des Princes. He even ousted Keylor Navas from the base, despite the fact that the Costa Rican demonstrated a high level. But without the proper push, Donnarumma significantly weakened, stopped playing at the level of a top modern goalkeeper, and Safonov's transition became a good confirmation of that. Even against the background of the former Russian Premier League goalkeeper, the Italian's game looks uncertain. He is still capable of making beautiful saves on the line, but that's where his strengths end. Every time Donnarumma stands in the goal frame, Paris Saint-Germain fans start worrying about the result. After all, the Italian's actions in a specific match are unpredictable. Safonov, although he lacks experience and class, is a versatile goalkeeper. His game inspires more confidence. When Donnarumma's position in Paris Saint-Germain's lineup became uncertain, he considered changing clubs. His agent, of course, announced this, commenting on the extension of the contract. We will evaluate his Paris Saint-Germain future amid uncertainties. Let's see, anything can happen. Negotiations about a new contract are in a waiting mode. Return to Series A. In football, never say never. Let's see what will happen in the coming years. Now he is focused on Paris Saint-Germain Saïd Enza Raiola. As usual, neither B nor me, but Villa's by the water. He would immediately say that he does not like the deteriorating situation, Donnarumma's position in the team, and the fact that he is being pushed out of the base by a guy named Matvei. Safonov, by the way, has a great opportunity to win the full confidence of the head coach. After all, Donnarumma is now showing his beautiful face. We are unlikely to see him in the upcoming matches. And instead of him, of course, Safonov will play. Mbappé will have a few chances to showcase his full potential. If he succeeds, Gigi will sit on the bench. In this situation, he will have no choice but to cry and request a transfer back to Milan. Only this time, Gigi might join the local Inter. It will be a sensational transfer, no matter how you look at it. After all, Donnarumma grew up in the Milan academy, and soon he will be defending the colors of his main rival. Well, isn't this a scandal? Although the football world has long been accustomed to transfers from Rossoneri to their neighbors. Manchester City's decline persists, and it's no laughing matter. This time, Guardiola's team lost to Aston Villa. Moreover, the performance of the citizens can't even be called good. They were at risk of conceding a goal early in the first half. Luckily, John Duran turned out to be selfish and didn't pass to the free McGinn. Otherwise, Aston and Will would have opened the score already at the 15th second of the game. But the hosts continued to create moment after moment, which inevitably turned into a goal at the 16th minute of the match. After the missed transmission, the camera showed Guardiola. It was hard to look at the Catalan coach without tears, but in the first half, the citizens at least bit back. For example, Guardiola could have headed the ball, but it flew just above the crossbar. In the second half, City collapsed. Guardiola's team needed to recover and achieve a positive result. But listen to the City's statistics in the second half. 43% ball possession and only half a ball by the system they gained in their last attack, which ended in a goal. That is, Man City practically created nothing for the second half of the game. Well, did they smell the scent of hopelessness? Because right now, the whole blue half of Manchester is so downcast. English media are already openly talking about the imminent dismissal of the Catalan coach. After all, one victory in 12 matches is a poor indicator even for an outsider, let alone a multiple champion of England. Aston Villa fans supported this trend, and throughout the match they taunted Guardiola, saying he would be fired in the morning. At the time of writing the script, the Catalan is still considered the main coach of Montidi, but let's see what happens in the near future. By now, management may have already released a sensational statement about Guardiola's dismissal. Let's talk a little more about how bad Montidi is. It should be noted that the team has fallen to 6th place in the VPL. By the end of the tour, it may even end up outside the Euro Cup zone. The Highlanders' 27 points scored in 17 tours is their worst record in the last 15 years, only surpassed by their performance when the Sheikhs first arrived at the Manchester club. It's also worth mentioning the statistics of the great and terrible Erling Haaland, who can no longer score against weak and average teams. The Norwegian has scored just 1 goal in Man City's last 6 matches. This was in a 1-on-1 against Crystal Palace when the citizens played a 2-2 draw. If we sum up, such a picture is now formed in Manchester. Defenders are struggling, attacking midfielders can't create a moment, and the head coach doesn't know how to fix the situation. Perhaps the winter window will breathe new life into the team, but it's unknown whether Guardiola will still be managing the team by that point. Yes, it turns out it's not so easy to win in the Premier League if you're not allowed to break financial rules and just buy trophies. Barcelona. Barcelona has agreed on a record deal with Nike, which will change football. It seemed that the Catalans had already signed a contract with the American sports equipment brand. They were even supposed to receive the first money, but it turned out not to be so simple. This contract had to be approved through 10 structures, and only after that could it come into force. Based on all indications, the deal's final approval occurred yesterday. All that was left was to spit in the palm and shake hands with the Nike representatives. The Barcelona Assembly ratified a historic agreement yesterday. Almost all of its members expressed support for signing the contract with Nike. Jean Laporta, of course, after this, rushed to praise himself and call the deal the best in football history. Our contract with Nike is the best in football history. We went through a difficult path with conflicts in court, but thanks to the mediator, we were able to restore trust and reach an agreement. This is a historic deal that will improve the club's financial position, freeing Barcelona members from the need to find funds, the president of Barcelona summarized. Here, it is likely best to agree with Laporte. Just look at the benefits this contract brings to the club. Barca will be getting an average of $140 million per year. That's $20 million more than what the current record holder Real earns from the contract with Adidas. It's also very important to add that Barca will be unloaded a hefty signing bonus of 160 million euros. This money should help the Catalans cope with the crisis. Surprisingly, they won't restore the club's one-to-one rule. Can you imagine what a hole there is now in Barcelona's budget? After signing the contract with Nike, surprisingly, two news about the transfers of star footballers appeared in the media at once. The local portal Sport reported that Barcelona is interested in Bayern's leader Leroy Sané, whose contract expires at the end of the season. But the same source talks about the German winger's desire to stay in Munich, and the Catalans have not yet made an offer to the footballer. But it will definitely be a loud transfer if Barcelona manages to convince Sané to join Flick's team. We've previously discussed potential changes to the channel's spaces multiple times. Spanish media also report Rafael Leao's transfer. There's more concrete here. The Portuguese himself dreams of ending up at Camp Nou, and his relationship with the head coach of Milan only contributes to Wenger's imminent departure. Barcelona and personally Joan Laporta would like to bring a world-class star to the team, and Leao's figure fits the requests of the Catalan president. That is, here we already see a mutual desire of the parties to conclude a deal. All that remained was to write out a check for 90 million euros to Milan, and the matter's in the hat. That's how the Parisians ended up paying a hefty fee for Kylian Mbappe. Now they may face disqualification from international tournaments if they don't pay the Frenchman his due money. This saga has been discussed repeatedly by everyone, and surely you are aware of its details. For those who have spent the last 6 months in a bunker, I will remind you. The passenger must owe the falling Real 55 million for the last 3 months of his career at Parc des Princes. But he doesn't plan to pay them because he believes that Kylian did not fulfill some verbal agreements with the club. But such a thing won't hold up in court. If it wasn't fixed on paper what Mbappe had to do to get this money, then Parisians have to give it to him. Nevertheless, they continue to resist. First, there was one court they lost, then a second one. Now the case has reached the highest authorities. But Kylian himself is tired of enduring this and is preparing to respond to the PSG leadership in kind. First, the Parisians sued Mbappe. Now the footballer himself will face off against the French grandee. This situation is far more intriguing than Paris Saint-Germain's endless legal battles. Mbappe has real arguments to punish the Parisians. It's written in black and white on paper. The Qatari sheikhs owe him 55 million. And if they don't pay, be good. Punish the team to the full extent of the law. Now, this conflict is being handled by the French Labor Court. If this authority cannot convince the Paris Saint-Germain management to give the owed money to Mbappe, then his lawyer is preparing to file a lawsuit against the French Football Federation. If it also fails to influence the sheikhs, then there is one last resort. A request to Union of European Football Associations to ban Paris-based teams from international competitions. But that's very funny. It's like you're going to complain about the Paris Saint-Germain management to the Paris Saint-Germain management and also demand some kind of punishment from them. Although maybe some remnants of independence from Qatari money have not been lost, and someone in this structure is really fighting for justice. In such a situation, we can count on Mbappe getting his way, and Parisians will refrain from participating in the Champions League. This will be a serious but fair blow to the Qatari project. For many years, sheikhs have been spending huge amounts of money on buying footballers and giving them fat contracts without receiving any punishment from Union of European Football Associations for violating financial fair play. But now at last, someone has appeared who can tweak the Parisians by the nose and will be right in every way. Matvei Safonov's ex-wife continues to throw mud at him. She recently suggested sending the goalkeeper to a mental institution to check his mental health. Anastasia Kazachuk made such a comment after Safonov was released in the match against Monaco, when Donnarumma's punch completely twisted the right side of his face. The Italian couldn't continue the match. Safonov, who let in 2 goals in 7 minutes, appeared on the field instead of him. After the game, Mbappé was devastated. It was hard for him to get into the rhythm of the game with the bench warmers. This became the trigger for Anastasia Kazachuk to send her ex-husband to jail. Safonov should be institutionalized. I believe his conduct reveals fear, insecurity, and lack of self-control. He gripes about stress and chaos instead of calmly handling the situation. It seems that he only cares about satisfying his ambitions. He invents excuses for self-justification, and his actions reveal greed and a desire to scandalize. All these seem like signs of serious psychological disorder, Kazachuk stated. It's hard to comment on this outburst in any sensible way. When you move to a big club, there's an unseen pressure that you have to get used to. Despite the logical problems in adaptation, Safonov is doing well with his work. I can't blame him for a really bad game. Against the backdrop of Donnarumma, he performs well. After one of the matches, it even happened that the Paris Saint-Germain fans chanted his name. And that's a great achievement for a guy who just recently moved to a European powerhouse. Safonova deserves praise for her performance. He might soon drop Donnarumma from the starting lineup altogether. You can only praise Safonov's young talent here. The next day, his ex-wife explained why she had sent Mbappé to the mental hospital. I asked for a psychological evaluation to be done on Safonov, as he invents lawsuits for the sake of scandals. His behavior and self-esteem issues indicate the need for professional help, the girl added to her words. But in reality, we all perfectly understand what the essence of the constant payments to the ex-wife at the address of Safonov is. The reason is as old as the world, and it's money. Specifically, substantial alimony payments. He should pay 25% of his salary for the maintenance of their common child. The money is spent by the mother, and this is in the region of 1 million euros. That's why they turn to the courts, where all means are good. Mikhail Mudrik was recently caught using doping. His tests revealed the banned substance meldonium, which hides the effects of using harder drugs. How the banned substance got into the offender's body is still unknown. Various theories are being built on the net, including the theory that Chelsea's management personally decided to slip the Ukrainian a spiked substance. This opinion was shared by the former coach of the Ukrainian national team, Josef Saba. There was nothing like this in our time. I thought about it, and here's what I think. Perhaps there are such fans who don't like something about the footballer, and they think they need to get rid of him somehow, so as not to pay big money, salary. Anything is possible. In case of a 4-year disqualification, there will be nothing to pay. That's the way it is, said Saba. The former coach of Ukraine could not explain why Chelsea would want to get rid of a falling player for whom they paid more than 70 million euros. Manchester United, who have shown interest in Mudrik recently, could have bought him, allowing the seller to recover some of the investment. Now, Chelsea will not receive any compensation if the second attempt yields positive results. That's why such a theory seems unfounded. But it would have been a scandal of global proportions if Chelsea's management had slipped him meldonium for some personal reasons to get rid of the footballer. As the investigation continues, Mudrik is enjoying an unforeseen break. Yesterday, he attended an epic boxing match between his compatriot Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury. One of the fans posted a joint photo with the Ukrainian on the eve of the decisive fight. One can assume that despite the threat of disqualification, Mudrik does not suffer from depression, but continues to live a normal life, even finding pleasure in such a respite. Now he can peacefully travel the world and visit various places. He now has enough time and money. In 2 years at Chelsea, he should have earned about 15 million euros. Such an amount should be enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. If he also attracts good financial consultants, they can help increase his capital. Then he won't have to worry about money at all. Bavaria hope to go on a winter break with a solid lead over Bayer, but the Liverpudlians don't want to let the Reds go. Bayer's win against Freiburg leaves a mere 4-point gap. The pharmacists dominated their rival, winning 5-1. Bayer controlled the course of the match, and even Freiburg's only goal didn't stand out in the field situation. I liked how the pharmacists reacted. They were not scared, they did not pull them to their throats, and did not start playing cautiously. Instead, they became angry and, deceived by their own sense of invincibility, rushed forward. They scored again against Freiburg. They could have scored even more. Florian Wirtz failed to convert a penalty, but he assisted Patrick Schick 3 times. Schick scored once without Florian's help due to Czech poker. And yet last season, he seemed to be a burden on Bayer's payroll, conceding to Victor Boniface in almost everything, but now Schick is just chic, a fantastic forward whose goals in yesterday's match were outstanding. Veers remains a vital player for Bayer and is unlikely to leave this summer. While no official announcement has been made, the parties appear to be nearing an agreement on the contract extension. Reliable kicker Nadaro announced the contract has been signed. Honestly, he lacks faith in the club's future. And I'm not talking about a specific case. The young top player is not the richest on the European team that interests the Grands. He will leave in 99% of cases. Moreover, even in the best scenarios, Bayer will not pay him as much as City, Real, and Bavaria offer. And there's a chance that the movements are related to Florian's conversation with Alonso. The coach told his favorite player he's considering staying another season. Almost no one believes this scenario, but I wouldn't be against it. Imagine how much Alonso would surprise everyone if he continues to coach Bayern. The fact that he turned down Bayern and Liverpool last season is already shock content. But to turn down Real Madrid? Staying at Bayern just doesn't make sense from a career development standpoint. But if Alonso enjoys lifting Leverkusen and he dreams of becoming Bayern's own Brian Clough or Valery Lobanovsky, why not? A couple of days ago, Arsenal parted ways in the League Cup and now took 3 points in the Championship. Eagles are an unpleasant opponent for all English tops, so the Gunners can be praised for such stability. If Koscielny barely won against the second team in the Cup, he easily defeated the Eagles in the Championship. And again, Arsenal brilliantly used the standards. Both of Arsenal's goals in the first 15 minutes came right after them. Extremely dangerous penalties for Londoners, even near the center of the field. Arsenal players crowd the penalty area, anticipating an imminent cross. Igor plays the ball briefly and easily delivers it to the flank, where no opponent players are present. Meanwhile, all players remain in the penalty area, filling the space in preparation. Bukayo Saka delivers precisely where Arsenal outnumbers the opposition. And voila, a goal. Exquisitely and effectively scored. Pelos seems to not even know his opponents. He positioned himself riskily at corners, relying on counterattacks. In my memory, he only managed to break away once, but without a goal. But Arsenal scored from one of the corners. Gabriel Jesus scored twice. Shockingly, Jesus failed to score. Many have forgotten he exists, including some Arsenal fans. And here he is, scoring 5 times a week. And all the gates are Pelos. I know it might go unnoticed on the channel, but I often agree with Piers Morgan. But if the topic isn't about Cristiano Ronaldo, he's a very reasonable guy. That's why I warmly welcome his latest statement. This revival of Jesla is nearly as incredible as the first one. If Jesla maintains his current form, it will greatly enhance Arsenal's title prospects. Still, 2 quality forwards are better than one. Especially if one is Kai Havertz, whose unconventional choices sometimes benefit but other times hinder him. Declan Rice, shown again, came on as a substitute and made it 1+1. And many criticized him for his insufficient contribution to organizing the attack. Erling Haaland has lost his scoring ability. Just 3 goals since Mikel Arteta advised him to be more humble. Erling himself criticizes his game in recent matches. We need to continue. We must believe and continue to work hard. First, I look at myself. I didn't do everything well enough. I didn't forget my moments. I need to become better. I wasn't good enough. Pep Guardiola agrees with him. The coach said that City's position would have been worse without Erling. He doesn't get them because he's in dangerous situations, not in safe ones. And he doesn't get them not because he plays poorly, but because the team has significantly reduced the number of moments. And Haaland continues to make the right moves. Pep is correct. Haaland cannot be compared to Messi. Erling is not a player who can create and realize a moment by himself. The Norwegian is perfect at catching timings, fights hard, and brilliantly opens up. But all this is useless if no one in the team makes the final pass. Is it worth criticizing Erling in the current situation? Everyone should meet their responsibilities. Haaland's obligation is to finish moments, not to invent them. Erling isn't prone to falling. While he has room for improvement, the crisis is unrelated to the Vikings' performances. But constant defeats are definitely not what Haaland can and wants to get used to. He doesn't have time for malice. In the tunnel after the Aston Villa match, he vented his anger on Emiliano Martinez. In the second half, Martinez nudged Grealish as he spoke to the referee. Haaland was ready to step in for his brother, but the referee was nearby, so he didn't escalate the situation. After the game, a nearly identical situation occurred. Martinez pushed Grealish a second time, now in the stands. And Haaland, no longer afraid of being sent off, shoved Emmy in response. And that's just what he needs. In short, a full-blown fight was prevented as many people were around and separated the footballers. There are almost no frames. Nothing was caught on cameras. And everything is from the words of English media. A pity I would have liked to see a fight between 2-meter giants. Such an appetizer, and they finish. English tabloids, they write about everything and end. English tabloids, such as, are full of stories about the club's management considering firing Guardiola right now to start rebuilding the team during the current season, which they no longer believe can be saved. But I think here we need not to change the coach, but to look for new loopholes. How else can we break the league rules and buy ourselves the next trophies? Thanks for watching and subscribing. See you next time. My name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and Johanga, friends.